Well, the Iranian government may in fact have a death wish. President Trump has offered them pretty much every way out. He's created room for negotiation with a ceasefire. He's talked up their pliability. He sent his vice president and his top negotiators to Islamabad, Pakistan, just to hear them out. And they pledged that they would deal. And then they walked it back. So what the hell comes next?
So Ben Shapiro just dropped a bombshell analysis exposing how Trump's Iran strategy is crushing the mullahs while Democrats literally side with America's enemies. We're talking polling data showing liberals prefer China and Iran over Israel, plus Obama's radical third worldist ideology infecting the entire Democratic Party. This is explosive.
Basically, the United States went into a ceasefire with the Iranians, and the idea was 2 weeks to open negotiations and to move toward a solution on nuclear weapons and Iran giving up its nukes, and on ballistic missiles, and on support for terrorist proxies. And it seemed as though there was some pretty significant movement. The president deployed J.D. Vance, as well as Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, to Islamabad, Pakistan. Originally, they came back and they said there was no deal to be made. And then it appeared as though there might be actually some movement because the United States, you'll remember last week, put a blockade on Iran's blockade. So Iran had basically been putting a blockade on goods in the Strait of Hormuz, harassing shipping, preventing oil from exiting the Persian Gulf. Well, the United States, in the aftermath of the failure of the first round of talks, then blockaded Iranian ships coming in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. And this put the Iranian government in significant economic trouble. And that apparently led to back-channel negotiations.
Trump's approach here is textbook Reagan-style peace through strength. Obama sent Iran pallets of cash and got nothing. Trump blockades their shipping and suddenly they're begging to negotiate. Economic pressure works because the Iranian regime needs revenue to survive. They only respect force.
Well, this led to what appears to be a pretty open split between some of the negotiators and the people actually in charge in Iran, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is essentially the Praetorian Guard for the mullahs. And there have been a lot of rumors about the split. In fact, one of the reasons why the negotiations in Islamabad, led by Vance, didn't succeed, according to Vance and members of the American side of that negotiation, is that the foreign ministry was making promises they couldn't keep. They would go back and the IRGC would then pretend that none of that ever happened. So
this split between Iran's foreign ministry and the Revolutionary Guard proves Trump's pressure campaign is working. The IRGC hardliners are panicking because their economy is collapsing. Compare this to Obama's pathetic appeasement that only emboldened Iran's nuclear program and terrorist proxies.
Because if they don't, the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy. They'll come down fast, they'll come down easy, and if they don't take the deal, it will be my honor to do what has to be done, which should have been done to Iran by other presidents for the last 47 years. It's time for the Iran killing machine to end.
Finally, clear, decisive leadership after decades of weakness. Iran has been murdering Americans for 47 years, while presidents from both parties did nothing. Trump's ultimatum is simple: take the deal or lose your infrastructure. This is how you deal with terrorist regimes.
But who likes Iran? It turns out very, very liberal voters and young Democratic voters are not all that anti-Iran, actually, as it turns out. So
wait until you see these polling numbers. We're about to witness the complete moral bankruptcy of the modern left. When Democrats have more sympathy for the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism than for America's only Democratic ally in the Middle East.
Only 7% of Americans have a positive view of Iran compared to 77% who have a negative view of Iran. But if you look at very liberal voters, only 14% of very liberal voters have a positive view of Israel. 70% have a negative view of Israel. 26% of very liberal voters, 26% have a favorable view of China. So nearly twice as many liberals have a positive view of China as have a positive view of Israel. And Iran, 12% have a positive view of Iran. 65% have a negative view of Iran. So Iran, among very liberal voters, is just a little bit more, like marginally more unpopular than Israel with very liberal voters.
These numbers are morally insane. Iran executes gay people, oppresses women, and funds global terrorism. Israel is a functioning democracy with Arab Supreme Court justices, yet American liberals view them as equally bad. This represents complete civilizational confusion about good versus evil.
A belief that the United States is inherently terrible, that the United States is unjust, that American values spread abroad are evil and wrong, and that virtually every country on earth, the more horrible the country, the more victimized they must have been at the hands of the United States. That is the actual ideology of the left, and it's infected some of the right as well. The grievance right, which believes that their constituents in the United States are being ground under the boot heel of a terrible American system, a system that promotes neoliberalism and foreign interests at the expense of the American people. And that terrible regime is having impacts outside the United States. Third worldism and grievance party right-wing nonsense, they end up being the same thing.
Third worldism is the belief that America is inherently evil and every enemy of America is automatically virtuous. It explains why Democrats sympathize with Hamas over Israel, China over Taiwan, and Iran over American interests. This ideology has completely captured progressive foreign policy.
He literally just gave a whole disquisition about how Hamas and Israel are the same, and he has said that he would not come out in favor of the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei because he is afraid that if he did, Dearborn would abandon him. And this person is a frontrunner for the Democrats.
This isn't some fringe activist. This is mainstream Democratic thinking now. When potential presidential candidates equate Hamas terrorists with Israeli democracy, the party has lost all moral clarity. The Democratic Party has become an anti-American institution promoting our enemies' propaganda.
Barack Obama, who's been kind of publicly missing from the debate for a while. He sounds off on Twitter every so often when he's not busy making crappy Netflix documentaries for too much money. He was out there campaigning, basically, with Zoran Mamdani. Why? Because Mamdani and Obama are of a piece. The thing that drove Barack Obama, I have said this literally his entire career, the thing that drove Barack Obama was the feeling that America was inherently guilty for all the problems of the world. This sort of post-colonial viewpoint was always Barack Obama's viewpoint. You'll remember that Barack Obama, in his memoir, Dreams from My Father, wrote this, quote, "I know, I have seen the desperation and disorder of the powerless, how it twists the lives of children on the streets of Jakarta or Nairobi in much the same ways it does the lives of children on Chicago's South Side, how narrow the path is for them between humiliation and untrammeled fury, how easily they slip into violence and despair."
Obama's memoir reveals his core worldview. America causes global suffering just like third world dictatorships. This moral equivalence justified his apology tours, Iran nuclear deal, and current support for radical anti-Israel activists. His presidency was 8 years of managed American decline.
But true hatred of Israel, the kind that's now being mainstreamed in the Democratic Party, and hatred of the United States, meaning hatred of our free market system, hatred of our Constitution, hatred of the fundamental principles upon which the United States is built, as opposed to third world countries everywhere, that hatred is coming from the same place. These are not separate issues. They are the same issue. Obama and Mamdani have always been on the same page, and they were over the weekend when they decided to get together to read to pre-K students in the South Bronx.
The connection is crystal clear. Anti-Israel hatred and anti-American hatred stem from the same source: resentment of Western civilization's success. Obama reading to kids with radical anti-Israel activists isn't charity work. It's ideological mentorship for the next generation.
Bernie Sanders took over the heart of the party, and then he combined it with Barack Obama's diverse background, and that's how you end up with Mamdaniism.
Bernie's economic socialism plus Obama's identity politics created this toxic fusion. They use diversity as a Trojan horse to smuggle in anti-American ideology. The goal isn't helping minorities, it's dismantling the American system that created unprecedented global prosperity.
We have a country based on merit. That's going to be the question. That is going to be the question. Do we have a country and also an international sphere based on merit, based on the capacity to do good things and remain powerful enough to do those things? Or do we have third worldism here?
This is the defining choice of our era. Trump represents merit-based leadership that maintains American strengths to protect global freedom. The Democratic alternative is third worldist ideology that weakens America while empowering our enemies. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Meritocracy relies on virtue, always. Freedom has always relied on a baseline of virtue. If people are taught from a young age to pursue virtue, it makes it easier for them to make the decisions that lead to success. The point Wilcox is making is, you can earn a lot of money as a single person. If you're still living in mommy's basement, you're going to talk about how hard it is to buy a home, but you don't have a drive to buy a home if you don't have a wife and kids. Pursue the virtuous, pursue the good, and you are significantly more likely to achieve financial success. That is one of the great things about the United States, and it's just statistically accurate.
The data is overwhelming. Marriage, family formation, and traditional values correlate directly with financial success and social mobility. America's meritocratic system rewards virtue and hard work. Democrats promote victimhood culture that destroys personal responsibility and individual achievement.